Robert Hernandez, Holden, Muskowski, Pacheco, Padilla, Villafranca, Swanix, Rath, Walters, Ferraro, 10 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, the council will please come in order. There are 15 council districts in the city. The regular meeting days are Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We are currently being viewed by cable subscribers throughout the Los Angeles area on Channel 35, and we're also being monitored by council phone. The first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
All right. Mr. Holden moves. Mr. Savornich seconds. If there's no objection, unanimous vote. Next item.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Unanimous vote, but we do have the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, unanimous vote on the next item.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there are item number 1, the applicant requests to continue to July 26th.
Well, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance first. That's the first thing we should do. As is customary on the first meeting of the month, we pledge allegiance to our flag. And would everyone please stand? And I'd ask Mr. Padilla to lead us in the pledge. And if you remain standing, we will have the invocation by Rabbi Michael Beal, B'nai Tadvet Titvah congregation representing the interfaith community and the Jewish community of Los Angeles. And he's located in Westchester, California. So, Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. And actually, a point of privilege, I want to acknowledge a group of students from Ranchito Elementary School in Panorama City. And I wanted to acknowledge them first because I'm going to ask one of them to come and help me give the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rabbi Beal.
Before I begin, I want to say what it is a rare privilege to serve the city. I serve the city as a management assistant in the Department of General Services, which was one of the highlights of my life, as well as a management analyst for the library department. I didn't think I'd get to serve the city again, and it's an honor to do so now with the invocation. Rabboni Shel Olam, Master of the Universe, we know that everything you do, no matter how coincidental in our own eyes, has a greater purpose. So I stand before you in humility and radical amazement that you should choose for me to recite an invocation prayer for the very first time in my life in this august Los Angeles City Council chamber on this day of all days, the 27th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. Of this tragedy, Ignacy Schipper, who perished in the death camp of Majdanek, wrote, "Nobody will want to believe us, because our disaster is the disaster of the entire civilized world. We will have the thankless job of proving to a reluctant world that we are Abel, the murdered brother." So, on this Holocaust Memorial Day, dear God, help us to be inspired by the memory of Ignacy Schipper and the fellow 6 million Jews who went to their cruel deaths. Help us also to remember on this day the other 6 million who did not fit the Aryan notion of perfection, be they sick, elderly, homosexual, gypsy, or black. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, on this Yom HaShoah, we ask your special blessings that the memory of the millions who perished in the Holocaust inspire those in this council chamber who have been elected to serve the welfare of the good citizens of this blessed city of the angels. As they perform their duties, dear God, keep these council members ever mindful of the high purposes to which they have been elected. May their actions today and every day reflect strength and wisdom. May their decisions help to create a city where Angelenos of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish all hatred and bigotry. May the words and debate uttered in these hallowed halls this day of all days reflect the ultimate truth of the Torah, the Bible, that we are all created b'tselem Elohim, in God's image. So as we look into each other's eyes, may we see glimpses of the divine. Finally, Harachaman, the merciful one, please bless this council members, the hardworking staff, and those dear to them with health of body, vigor of mind, and serenity of spirit. And let us all say, Amen.
Thank you, Cardinal Beal and Alex Padilla. Thank you for the Pledge of Allegiance with your students. Did you? Yeah, Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Ms. Castañeda and her daughter for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can ask the group of students to rise. This is a very special group with us here today. Like I mentioned before, they're from Ranchito Avenue Elementary, but this specific group is a group of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, 7 to 9 years old, and they are known as the junior teachers, because what they do is when they're not in school and during their breaks, they serve as tutors to the preschoolers. So they take their time, they commit their time from 8 in the morning till 12 o'clock every day and act as teachers for those that are younger than them. And I think they're great models of community service, of education, and all the things that are great about the city of Los Angeles. I ask you to join me in welcoming them to City Hall today.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Holden for an introduction.
Mr. President, members, indeed my pleasure to introduce Dr. William J. Shaw from Pennsylvania. He's the highest ranking member of the National Baptist Convention. He is its president. And he is visiting Los Angeles today, and he brings with him about 25 ministers and supporters, arranged by Reverend Hardwick. As you might know already, the National Baptist Convention will be held here in Los Angeles in September 2000. This event will bring more than 45 to 50,000 people to the city of Los Angeles. That can help us in many ways also. Mr. President, members, I think it's appropriate that we have a few comments from Dr. William J. Shaw, President of the National Baptist Convention. Would you come forward, sir?
Mr. President, Councilman Holden, all of the honorable members of this council, let me thank you for permitting us to simply come and greet you. I've come to the city in some pre-convention preparation meetings. We look forward to being a part of this city in the first part of September. You will have entertained the Republican National Convention in August. The Democrat, I say Republican, the Republicans will be in my city, in Philadelphia. The Democrats will be here, and then following that, believers of all political parties will be present here. We look forward to sharing with you and know that our coming will not be a successful coming without close interaction between city government, city council, those who are planning for our visit here, and of course the delegates who will be attending. So I'm pleased to greet you today. I bid you well in your deliberations. I bid this city well. You are in our prayers. We ask that you would lift up your prayers of all persuasions for this gathering of believers in this city in September. Thank you so very much just for the privilege of greeting you, and I'm grateful for our local presidents, Dr. Hardwick, and others who spearhead this effort. And thanks to the Honorable Councilman for making it possible for us to greet you at this time. Thank you, and God bless you.
Reverend Shaw, we want to welcome you to our city and hope that you find it very pleasant and you'll have a good convention.
Thank you very much.
And on that, Mr. President, LA is the city of the angels, and here is going to be really great.
And you're one of our biggest angels.
One of the biggest angels. We just fly like a butterfly.
Okay. Next item.
Before beginning the regular agenda, item number 1, the applicant consents to continuance to July 26th.
There's no objection, unanimous vote.
Item number 13, the Housing Department has advised that matter can be received and filed inasmuch as the REAP violations have been corrected.
There's no objections, unanimous vote.
Item number 2 is an item notice for public hearing. Number 2 is a required public hearing item.
Anybody in the audience wants to be heard on item number 2? We have somebody dropped a cell phone. I don't know if there's, somebody's missing a cell phone. You can claim it, I'll give it to Eddie. We have no cards, so the public hearing is closed on item number 2. Any discussion on item number 2? Mrs. Chick moves. Prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
Items 3 through 11 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right. Any specials by council members?
It's an 8 special.
Huh? Any specials?
6 and 8 special, Mr. President.
6 and 8 is called special. Any others? We have 3, 4, 5, 7, 9. We have 2 motions.
Those both concur. The one report has an additional instruction, so council may wish to adopt both of the reports.
Okay. 9, 10, and 11. Prepare the roll on those. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, we have 6 and 8 still on the desk there. Next item.
Items for which public hearings have not been held, items 12 through 31.
We have cards on 29. We'll call that special. Anybody want to be heard on any of those items? 12 through 31.
Mr. President, I have a question on item.
Well, wait, let's see if there's, close out the public hearing. Public hearing's closed on all but 29. Mr. Hernandez?
Item 26, Mr. Fury's motion. The only question, and I was trying to talk to, on the last further move, the instruction is that it be delivered to them within 60 days, but my understanding is that you wanted to comply within council policy.
Yes, Mr. Hernandez, I recognize that this request, I think, places this community number 6, I believe, on a list of communities to
whatever-
receive them, so it needs to follow in the queue.
Okay, so it'll be part as council policy.
Okay. Any specials by council members? 14 is called special. 25. Any other specials? If not, prepare the roll on 12 through 31 with the exception of 13, which has been acted on already, 14, 25, and 29. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item.
Item 32 is closed session, and also 34 and 35. Do you wish to hold those?
Yes.
On the supplemental agenda, item 33.
We have cards on that, so we'll call that special. Next item.
Item 6 called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden?
Mr. President, members, I think that it's important, at least I was not in this committee hearing, that we have a report on this is asking to ascertain information why they're making a request for the change in the ordinance.
Is there somebody from the Department of Water and Power here? This is the second reading, Mr. Holden.
I didn't even hear the first one.
You didn't hear the first hearing? Ms. Glanner, did you want to, yeah. You want to?
Oh, yeah. I think I did call this special, and I did previously.
Okay. Mr. Echeverria?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, this ordinance makes the technical changes that are required by the charter. We got it? This, right? This ordinance.
No, try
Try the green one.
Yes, Mr. President, and members of the council, this ordinance makes the technical changes that are required by the new provisions of the charter. It does not make any substantive
What does
changes.
the ordinance
at
do?
all. It merely makes the provisions of the administrative code consistent with the new charter, so that, for example, when it refers to CAO, now it will refer to the Office of Administrative Services. It makes the contracting provisions consistent with the new charter provisions, and that's all. It's simply technical changes. The one area in which it makes what would appear to be a substantive change but it's actually consistent with the existing code section, is that it provides that the general manager may be authorized to enter into contracts for power, to actually buy electricity. He has the ability to do that up to a specified number of megawatts at this point. The ordinance converts those megawatts to a dollar amount, and that's the...
And what dollar amount will you...
He has authority to contract up to 500 megawatt hours per transaction at this point. That translates to an amount not to exceed to $2,500 per megawatt hour.
2,000?
$500 per megawatt hour.
And how many megawatts?
500 megawatts. So that's the authority. He currently has that authority. This makes it more explicit.
So it's like $100,000 or something like that? Is that what it...
Per time.
Per time,
Per
and you
purchase.
keep doing that over and over again, and you get up to $1 million, and how often can they do this without...
They can only buy the electricity that they can use, so it's limited by the needs of the system in any event.
So we're not encroaching on the deregulation to the extent where now we cross the line and now we are accepting that which is then deregulated because of the amount.
Correct, we're not doing that.
We're not encroaching on that.
No.
And before they decide we're going to participate in that deregulated program, that's going to be a decision made by maybe their commission and also the council. Is that correct
Correct.
still?
Correct.
All right.
This doesn't change that at all.
Anyone else want to be heard on this? If not, prepare the roll on the item number 6, second reading ordinance. Tabulate the vote.
13 eyes.
That is approved. Next item.
Item number 8, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden,
Yeah, Mr. President, once again, too, I think that whereas I understand it, and I would hope most members understand the fact that this is a charter implementation report and resolution relating to revising City Council rules to reflect new censure procedures for the Los Angeles City Council pursuant to section, and that's already explained, 209. I want to know, we need a pretty good explanation what that really means, and with politics being what it is, and hatred also being a part of that. Would you hold my, well, you haven't started yet. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, members of council, Pete Echeverria from the City Attorney's Office. Again, this is a provision, a new provision in the code, which simply provides that the council may adopt procedures for censure of the members when the membership deems it appropriate. It requires a vote by the full membership. First of all, a resolution to be introduced calling for the censure of a member, stating the reasons for it, that resolution to be considered by a committee which is established under this procedure, with notice given to the member who is the subject of the motion, an opportunity for that member to appear and respond to the whatever allegations are made in the resolution of censure, and to have an opportunity to rebut them, and then it requires a vote of the council, if I remember correctly, a two-thirds vote of council in order to adopt any motion or any resolution of censure. So it merely establishes a procedure which the charter says you are authorized to establish. If you do not establish procedures such as this, and these I believe are minimal, but they do ensure a due process for any member who's the subject of a resolution, then you still have, the body has the ability to censure its members, but you won't have a procedure in place to deal with those types of situations. That's not to say that you would ever invoke them, but if they ever are invoked, you would now have a procedure there that can be utilized by you rather than having to make it up as you go along, if you will. It's just a public censure. There is
Mr.
no
Holden,
other
you still have the
consequence.
floor.
Oh, yeah, just, Mr. Fuhrer states here in the committee, his vice chair, that while he could understand concerns about the use of such a provision, even he's concerned about that, he believes it would require egregious behavior to create circumstances in which censure would be used. Now, that's in the mind of the beholder. I got to tell you personally, I got a lot of help from a lot of my council members upon previous occasions, which I will never forget as long as I live. And I'm saying to you that it becomes a personality, it becomes political, and they can, and at any time, any group of them, because of their political ambition, will exploit this issue and take advantage of their colleagues, ride the backs of their colleagues to do that. I don't think that we should ever give that opportunity to people who exercise emotion over common sense sometime. And so there's no way under any circumstance on God's earth that I could ever vote for anything like this, given people being the way that they are. Many of them are mean, vicious, vindictive, and don't have any good reason or good cause other than the fact that they have their own private and personal agendas.
Okay.
And for that reason, Mr. President,
Strong letter to follow.
hey, I can get even stronger, but I'm on television.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, I want to clarify, the action of censure would require a two-thirds vote of council, which is a higher level than would be required at this point. 8 members could vote to
All right,
censure.
Mr. Bernson.
I have a few concerns about this also, not exactly along the line of Nate's, but I'm just wondering whether this is going to be something that's going to be inducive to good relations among the council. I have some real problems with it. You know, the people who elect you, I hope everybody's listening, the people who elect you have the ability to censor you. They are the ones that put you in office, and by a recall, which they can accomplish, they can censor you, they can remove you from office. And whether we want to politicize any interaction among the council, I just question whether that's going to be in the best interest of future councils. Most of us aren't going to be here. In fact, all of us probably will not be here when this may come up. But the point is it going to increase friction among council members, or is it going to, you know, I really have some problems with it. I understand there may be some needs at some time to censure, but even so, I think it's going to be a political football, and I really am concerned about it. I really am. I would possibly consider this if it were not a two-thirds vote, but a three-fourths vote, because if we're going to do something that dramatic, it should require an overwhelming majority. And second of all, you know, merely the accusation may be enough to politically harm an individual. I think I'm going to side with Mr. Holden in this particular case. I just don't think this is necessary. I think there already is a procedure for censure. It's by the people who elected you. And if they think you're not doing a good job or did something wrong or did something grievous, which is already provided in the city charter, they have the ability to file a recall against you. So I think I'm not ready to support this right now. Maybe I'll change my mind. Certainly not with a two-thirds vote. It would require a three-quarters vote. But I'm even concerned that the mere action of initiating a censure against you could be politically motivated or politically damaging. And once you're accused of something, it's very difficult to overcome something like that. I have some real problems with it.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of clarifications, colleagues. First of all, and if I'm not exactly accurate, Mr. Echeverria, please correct me, but we have in the charter now the ability to censure one of our own with only 8 votes. What is before you is making it much more difficult in terms of a two-thirds vote, or maybe I don't want to say much more difficult. It requires a much greater consensus on the two-thirds vote. And also, the framework, the rules are set into place to provide, an equitable fairness for everyone, consistency, so that it can't be done haphazardly depending on the situation or the personalities. In response to the comments some of my colleagues have made already, I would say the following. First of all, I'm a little bit in awe of the lack of confidence in one's colleagues that has been expressed so far, since we all work together right now with the rules that we can censure with 8 votes, and somehow putting this in place seems to get some people worried that there's those of us who are motivated by ill will or mean-spiritedness. Quite frankly, what's before us would require really egregious behavior and arguments in public that would clearly expose political motivations, and I don't suspect that that's going to be at the basis of this. And finally, we talk about a code of silence in law enforcement, in the LAPD. We need to make sure we don't have a code of silence, and that we have an appropriate and responsible way to say out loud when we think one of us has done something so egregious that it calls for that kind of public discussion, instead of all being caught up in the public's mind when one of us does something egregious and never saying anything. This allows for a public discussion that I think the voters in the city of Los Angeles absolutely feel responsible elected officials should hold in public. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I might, I just want to add the two-thirds vote is specified in Section 209 of the new charter. That is the level that's specified. Correct. Correct. Correct.
Mr. Varnich? Mr. Fuhrer?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak very briefly to sort of summarize what I think the story is. We have a charter that's taking effect soon. The charter, as we just noted, requires that the rule be a two-thirds vote when it comes to censure. And the only choice before us is, should we have procedures or not? Is that correct, Mr. Echeverria?
That is correct.
The choice is not, should there be the opportunity to censure? The choice is not what the vote should be. The choice is, do we put in place procedures so that we know the rules going in, or do we allow for a potentially more politicized process in the negative sense by having simply ad hoc rules invoked by whomever, whenever? It was the view of the majority sitting in the ad hoc committee on the charter that it was a better idea for us, given the rules that are extant in the new charter, to define with some specificity how to assure due process protections to people who might be the subject of a censure provision. That's all. Mr. Echeverria, have I said anything that is inaccurate?
No, it's entirely accurate.
Yeah, and so I guess, colleagues, in light of the fact that the choice is a stark one, do we assure adequate due process protections in this process, or do we merely assume that later on an ad hoc basis, someone might come up with a rule that provides those protections? We ought to be asserting protections now, having clear guidelines now, and having a roadmap spelled out in advance. And in that spirit, I urge adoption of the report and the ordinance related to it, because without doing so, we are accentuating rather than diminishing the possibility of an unduly politicized process later on.
Mr. Pacheco?
I wanted to move the previous question. No? Okay. Then I pass.
Yeah, you should pass. This is a big issue.
213, Mr. Pacheco, Ms. Galanter. Hello.
Hello. I'd be interested to see these guidelines as well, because the thing that concerns me is the only experiences I've had in this council when there were efforts made to censure somebody. One of them involved a specific action that involved city business, and the other one involved specific action that did not involve city business. And it is my personal view that many of the many people throughout the city took the opportunity to get their names in the paper by issuing statements of horror that were probably not really needed. And the concern that I have is it's better to have procedures than not to have procedures. It's better to require a 2/3 vote than a simple majority, because that does ensure at least that there's a greater opportunity for sanity to prevail. But I think that there is a real danger if we don't have fairly elaborate procedures, and even if we do, for this to become a political football. And as we are going to be entering an era, we are already in an era when historical continuity is going to drop a lot around here, I think that we ought to be very careful about encouraging people to, or providing extra forums for people to get their names in the headlines at somebody else's expense. There isn't anybody in government anywhere, or probably in the private sector either, who hasn't at one time or another done something they kind of wish they had done differently. But the public arena is one in which we are all scrutinized every day by everybody imaginable, and usually not very flatteringly. And I just don't see us accomplishing much good for the city by encouraging further potshots. Still, having said that, I mean, it's better to have a 2/3 majority than not.
Mr. Wax?
Before I speak, I've read this. I don't see any of the criteria on which censorship may be given in this.
These would have been referred to as guidelines, are actually procedures. That's all.
Where are the criteria? When Mr. Fuhrer put in a motion, he put in very specific criteria that he felt for censorship. I didn't support those, but now I noticed that they've been taken out completely, and so there are no criteria. What are the findings the council would have to make in order to censure?
That the conduct of the official did not conform to the highest standards of personal and professional conduct.
Okay, there you go. That the conduct of the official didn't conform to the highest standards of professional conduct as determined by 2/3 of our colleagues.
Correct.
I oppose this in committee, and I oppose it now, and I'll tell you exactly why. This is, I believe, this is a mechanism whereby council members who take unpopular positions and do unpopular things will be punished by their colleagues. I'll probably be the first. Because those who step out of the box, those who dare challenge, those who say, I don't want things going on in secret and I'm going to make it public so that the public knows what's going on, those who do those things, who I think serve a good purpose in government, will be the first one who, quote, didn't conform to the highest standards as determined by 10 of us here. I think that is, I know that isn't Mr. Fuhrer's intention. I know, and I told him when he brought this in, that he's trying to do something that would make us, in fact, more accountable. But when you have something so open-ended, so broad, so easily manipulated, that the effect of this is going to simply be to try to keep people in line, to keep people from being individuals, to keep people from speaking out when it's unpopular, to keep people from lifting the veil of secrecy when it occurs, and that will make government more reprehensible rather than better. And I don't trust, Mr. Fuhrer, this system to work in the way that I know you're intending it to do. I know your motives are good on this, and I know what you're trying to accomplish, but I think you just simply open up an entire hornet's nest here that I think is really very, very dangerous. And let me tell you, what happens to one day happens to the next the other day. And these things have an interesting way of working at different times, on different issues, on different personalities. But I know that as someone who personally is someone who often takes on popular stance and who often does try to blow the whistle on things, I know that this is can be used as a veiled threat, and I think that it's very, very dangerous, and I cannot support it.
Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, again, I think we've got to hear what is going on. What is before us is a measure to implement the charter. The charter now says It authorizes the City Council to adopt by a two-thirds vote a resolution of censure with respect to any member of the council whose actions constitute gross failure to meet the highest standards of personal and professional conduct, even if that action does not constitute a ground for removal from office under the Charter. That is now the law that will be in effect on July 1st. What is before us today is, under that law, should we today create a process? There have been those who suggest maybe we should suggest guidelines as well. But today, it's just a process and a procedure. And I think it's far better today, when we're not heated, although you wouldn't know that from the conversation, to do this in a measured sense of setting forth that process, which sets forward some procedure, some guidelines, some right to petition, some right to have an action and a format that makes sense. We could not do this and wait until something happens after July 1st, who knows what it might be, where there is then a motion calling for censure, and we will all scramble and say, what are the guidelines? Do we have a process? And to try to do it then in the heat of a moment, as Mr. Wax has talked about, when someone may want to try to do something, it will be far harder or more politicized, more judgmental, more volatile. I think today, not in the heat of that moment, looking at the fact that this is in the Charter, we have this authority, and the question is, shall we further that authority by way of a process, or just leave it out there and let come what may in the future under the Charter when someone tries to do it, and just know that two-thirds votes are required? That's the choice before us. I think creating a process and a procedure, as is recommended, makes some sense, rather than trying to scramble and do it later.
I feel the same way as Joel and Nate, but having heard what I've heard, I recognize the fact that it's required by the Charter, the new Charter, so we probably should put something in place which would give us a procedure. But I would be more comfortable if we were able to build in something that would, the findings have to be made prior to such a charge, such as violation of oath of office, which is not necessarily a criminal action, but and I would move, members of the council, that that we do support this, but that we add a condition that says that in order to establish, prior to filing a measure of censure, that findings have to be made that there was a violation of oath of office. And that would give us, I think, because give us the protection that we need to have in there, because you know what, when you use the highest principles of office, what I might consider the highest principles of office, Mr. Holden or Mr. Fuhrer or somebody else might not consider that. So that's a very subjective question. What is the highest principles of office? Okay? So I think my amendment will take care of that, and I will support this if the amendment is put in place. That findings must be made to show that there was a violation of oath of office.
Mr. Holden.
I want Mr. Wax to respond to that after I finish speaking. I must tell you that what we're doing here or not doing doesn't relate to a code of silence at all. We don't do anything in secrecy, number one. Number two is that what is said about an elected official is already public, and that what draws concern on the part of his colleague, his or her colleague, because they're the ones who make it public. They're the ones who make a big issue out of it. Now, while they're speaking over there talking, I can remember not too long ago when some of my colleagues held a gun to the head of another one of my colleagues. They had two guns. Then they had another gun at my head, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm saying to you that some of their motives were not proper at all. And I just don't like it. I think that if you're going to put something in place in concrete, then you probably should get an input from each and every one of you as it relates to this boilerplate approach. Iron it out very thoroughly and carefully, then maybe we can get a unanimous vote. But the way it's presented today, one colleague, one member of the council, that's all it takes. One member of the council can file a motion to censure you. One member, that's all it takes. Then they constitute a 5-member panel, 5 members of your enemies that you voted against all the time, and they don't like you for whatever reason. Hell, I had 3 or 4 of them come out against me for re-election. That would have been easy to get a majority of them. The fact of the matter is that I'm telling you, dangerous waters you're treading on. And when it comes back to bite you where the sun don't shine, then you know that you created a problem for yourself. So I'm just telling you, you can tell I'm upset about this. You bet I'm upset. Because all these holier than thous, do-gooder people, trying to figure out a way how to chop up other people that they don't like.
Mr. Hernandez.
Members of the council, I think you all understand why I had some reluctance to stand up and speak about this issue. The reality is today I'm celebrating 985 days of sobriety, and I think I think that my experience was one that basically my God blessed me by allowing me to be arrested and very publicly deal with the issue of sobriety. But because of that, some of my colleagues took certain positions and felt that I did not deserve an opportunity to do my job sober. And I felt very strongly that if I was doing my job and nobody was criticizing the job I was doing while I was drinking and using drugs, which was a problem and a sickness and something I had to deal with, but I didn't feel I had an out. And the arrest gave me that out. And I share that with many people today, trying to help them with their disease and their sobriety. Now, that's where things get mixed up. And we need some kinds of procedures for that to happen. Some of my colleagues felt that I should resign because I had committed a felony, even though the courts gave me options. And then, to this day, I don't have a felony. And some people felt, well, if you admitted to a felony, and the reality is, there's a drug court where you don't have to admit to a felony. And so basically I was having choices that every other citizen had. And I was no different than them, and I'm proving a system works. And as long as I stay sober, I think I have that opportunity. Now the reason I'm talking about that is because this kind of issue was very, in that instance, it wasn't for political reasons I think that people were taking issues. It was because people felt that they were at a different standard. We should be held at a different standard, that we shouldn't be treated as human beings. And I think that we are human, whether it be divorce, whether it be drinking in public, whether it be us doing things that maybe some people won't approve of, like taking a position and standing with a labor group, and the issues that come about because we do those kinds of things. So it is something we have to be very careful how we use. I know some of my colleagues chose to take on another colleague and try and make sure he didn't get reelected. And that was strictly political, no matter how you look at it. They felt that he shouldn't be in office. And so again, how you use this is real key. I'm going to support the ordinance because I think that, again, it's those who choose to invoke it who have to look at their conscience, why they're doing it, and what position they're in. At the same time, I'm not one to be out there judging your behavior because I learned that I will be judged by the way I judge other people. So again, Mr. Holden has strong feelings, and I understand his feelings. I think each and every one of us has feelings, and that's what makes us human. But what we have to do is try to be responsible in our actions, and that's why I don't have any problem in supporting the ordinance before us.
Mr. Savarnich?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. One of the things to which I have admired over my course of being able to serve with each and every one of you colleagues is the congeniality that we have been able to preserve in this chamber while we try to discuss a multitude of issues which sometimes raise the level of contentiousness here. One of the things to which gives me great concern is that during the course of this being put into the charter, the only elected officials that were considered for some type of a censure clause or a censure issue was the city council. And I believe that the new charter, Mr. Echeverria, and correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't provide for this council censuring any other elected official except one of their own. It does not provide that this council be able to censor the mayor, censor the city attorney, censor the city controller, only to censor ourselves. And one of the things is that the mechanism to censor one of the other elected officials of the city, there being 18 of us in total, for the city controller, the city attorney, and the mayor, the method of censor is removal of office. But for us, it is not only removal for office, it's being able for us to have to grip with the contentiousness of having to censor one of our own. And yes, I do understand the arguments that have been made by Councilman Miskowski and Councilman Fewer and others that the new charter puts it in there. It's already there. And what we need to do is adopt policies and procedures in order to embrace this new change that was put in by the voters of this city. Right now, a vote of censure is only 8 votes. What this does is make it 10 votes. But what strikes me funny, and funny in a sense that I really never want to be put in the position of having to sit in judgment in regards to one of my colleagues, unlike the terrible mistake, and Mr. Hernandez, you'll probably want to hear this, that I made, that when a colleague was down and out, instead of reaching out with a helping hand, I slapped him.
Okay, thank you.
And one of the things that I want to make sure that this body never does, as I did as an individual, is that there was a colleague who needed help. And I was one of those who took the easy route and condemned him instead of offering him some support.
Right.
And Mr. Hernandez, as I stand here today, I would like to apologize to you because I should have reached out to help you, and I was one of those who condemned you. And you deserve all the support that you can, as you've been doing, to put your life back together. And I am proud of you, and I apologize to you, and I never think that this type of debate should be on this council floor.
Ms. Goldberg?
I really concur with most of the things that have been said. The problem we face is that we have to do something because the charter requires it. Doesn't it? I mean, isn't that in the requirements that we have to do something?
It's permissive. You're not
Oh, it's
required
permissive. I'm
you're
sorry.
not required to adopt these procedures.
Okay, we are not required. I misunderstood the original opening of this. I thought we were required and all we could argue about was how to do it.
It's permissive, but if you don't act, there will be no procedures in place.
All right, there'll be no procedures in place.
Correct.
But there will still be something which says in the charter that there can be a censorship, censuring, rather.
Correct.
Censuring.
Censuring of
Okay.
members.
I would like to refer this matter to an ad hoc committee. The reason I say that is that I think sooner or later, as long as the ability to do it is in the charter, it will happen. Someone will try to invoke it. I would much rather us have a serious discussion of how to provide the protections that we could possibly put into such an ordinance and to have it come back before July 1st. And I personally would urge that those with the greatest passion, which include Mr. Holden and perhaps Mr. Wax and others who might volunteer, Mr. Burnson, volunteer and see if we can come up with something, because a person who's lived the life I've lived can tell you that I've been censured many times, many places, and I doubt that it's over. It'll happen many more times in many more places in my life. So I understand what you're all talking about here. I'm frequently the one that's just a little too far out there for some people's taste. So I don't have any problem with that. That's who I am, and I live with that. But I also understand the need for us to leave in place then some procedure which provides the maximum civil liberties types of guarantees and civil rights types of guarantees. And so that would be my recommendation, is that we refer the matter back, ask the president of the council to appoint an ad hoc committee,
Maybe we can't come up with anything, we should just leave it silent, and I will hear that too. But I think it would be a good idea, given the amount of feelings that a lot of us have about these issues, to see if we could come up with a reasonable set of protections so that we meet the letter of the spirit of it, which is to censure folks who actually dishonor the city of Los Angeles. I don't have any idea how you do that, because lots of things I've done, people have said do that. But I know, I understand. So I'm saying I think it would be useful to have an attempt. I would like to have it referred. I'd like to see an ad hoc committee appointed of people who want to try to have some input on this and see what we can do, and that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. I think I should point out that I get censored every day by the Daily News. Ms. Galanter?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because actually, we all do. It seems to me that there are some real problems with this provision in the Charter. One of the problems that I think is most serious is that it refers to the highest standards of personal behavior. It's not so long ago, ladies and gentlemen, that anybody who was gay or lesbian, anybody who lived with somebody they weren't married to, anybody who lived with or married somebody who was of a different ethnic background would be subject by many people, I think not this council, but by many people, to censure. That behavior would be declared not up to the highest standards. Divorce used to meet that same situation, and there's an awful lot of people in Los Angeles who are divorced, an awful lot who live with people they're not married to, an awful lot who are gay and lesbian. There's all kinds of people in Los Angeles. It seems to me that the difficulty we have here is that there are no real criteria at all. And to take Mr. Hernandez's situation, as far as nobody ever accused him of actually stealing anything, nobody accused him of selling his vote, he never did any of those things. His particular problem was one, there was another whole set of remedies to deal with. And as Mike has pointed out, those remedies ultimately helped him. It seems to me that I personally think the council's behavior in the aftermath of your situation was not exemplary. And had we had a censure motion, we might have done something we would later regret. And I think the personal behavior part is a problem. I think we need extensive protections in this, more extensive than what's before us today. So I don't think it's ready to go forward, although I do agree that we must have some kind of procedure in place. I actually like the suggestion I think Mr. Bernsen made earlier, that it should be 12 votes instead of 10 votes. And so I too would urge that we do a little more work on this. We have, as I understand it, we have the choice, we're writing an ordinance. Can we do it at 12 votes?
The charter itself specifies 2/3, so you can't change that.
Yet another reason we made a mistake adopting this charter.
Mrs. Chick?
If it's the will of the council to form an ad hoc committee or have more discussion, I never think continuing discussion is a bad thing. This was in the charter implementation ad hoc committee. Mr. Holden, Ms. Goldberg, Mr. Fuhr, Mr. Wax, and myself are on that committee, and we had it in that committee several times. This is one of those situations where the devil is in the details, that we felt it would be better to have guidelines than not, since there's certain things now in the charter that exist. And I will point out to some of my colleagues who have argued on other things that they want to support the charter and they want to stay with the language of the charter, that this is an example of moving forward to do that. We can't undo the fact that city council members can censure each other with a 2/3 vote. So one possibility, if it's not to go forward today, is rather than create a new ad hoc committee, bring it back to the charter implementation ad hoc and invite any and all members, Mr. Bernsen, who are not on that committee and are interested in this issue. But to me, it's better to have some guidelines. And then I'd like to end with asking Rebecca Avila to come to the center table, because Our Ethics Commission was involved with the work of the ad hoc committee. It was decided, for instance, that it was better not to develop a list of things for which censure would be appropriate. And also, before I turn it over to Rebecca, certainly it seems that we're working pretty well together and as 15 individuals without having had any censure brought forward. But the people who formed this proposal and the people who voted on it clearly want us to have that process. Ms. Avila.
Yes, good morning, council members. Rebecca Avila, Executive Director of the City Ethics Commission. Let me begin by clarifying that at the request of the ad hoc committee, the staff conducted some research into this issue. So this is not a matter that has been before the Ethics Commission itself. This is merely something that's been done at the staff level. Based on our research, it was difficult to come up with, after looking at a variety of other jurisdictions at the federal level, state, and local level, to come up with any sort of criteria that wasn't also subjective, like the language that's already contained in the charter. So we were unable to provide the ad hoc committee with a specified list of behaviors that seem to address the concerns that have again been voiced this morning.
Mr. Wax?
Let me read the charter says the council may, by a two-thirds vote, adopt a resolution of censure. It doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. So the first question is whether we're going to. And if we are, then there's two questions. On what criteria, either it's as broad as this, or there are some more defined criteria. And then there's a procedure. This is dealings with the procedure, but it doesn't deal with the criteria. And it's the lack of criteria that I find the problem. I don't find a problem with the procedure if we're going to have it and we're going to have criteria upon which I find the whole concept of, I would say that unless and until there were a meaningful procedure that distinguished between certain kinds of conduct, that we don't do it at all, and we don't. And by the way, Ms. Chick, it was done under the old charter too. There have been censures under the old charter. There were no procedures and no criteria, but it was done. Yeah, by the council. It had no meaning, and it had no procedures, and it was just done in haste. But so the thing about this is that I go back to the criteria, or the lack of criteria. I just simply find that, I'll be honest with you, I don't have confidence in us determining which among us conforms to the highest standard of personal conduct. I simply don't. In Mr. Hernandez's case, and I was not one who went after him, but you could have defined that criteria. There was a very specific situation of one who admitted something, but then it didn't become final because there was a process and went through it and all that. That was a definable act. It'd be up to you to judge whether or not you'd want to then apply this to that act, but it was definable. It is not definable, the highest standards of personal conduct as determined by us to judge us. It just simply isn't. And I go back, one could sometimes wear it as a badge of honor too, I know, for example, I remember one day how badly I got ripped by my colleagues in an executive session for having made public some things that went on in executive session regarding water and power salaries. And I just felt strongly that that was involving hundreds of millions of dollars of public money, and the public had a right to know, and that while the council could go into executive session under the reasoning that somehow we're dealing with employee relations matters, I felt it should be public. And I wasn't about to not speak about it, whether the rest of the council did or not. And I remember what happened that in an executive session, and I know that I would have been censured that day if this was available. It wouldn't have taken 5 seconds for 10 of my colleagues to have done that. They were angry. So, and then I would have made a bigger issue out of that probably, So, there's two ways to deal with this. There's no real meaning to censure other than it's a censure. But I think that in fact we should take it more seriously, and we should try to define criteria by which people should be censured.
All right, thank you.
But I don't think that it can be as broad as just us determining who among us conforms to the highest standard of personal conduct in our own eyes. I
Thank you,
think
Mr.
that
Welch.
really opens the door up to something and so it's not the procedures. I don't have any real problem with this. I could go for 3/4 as well as 2/3, all that. But I really want the criteria defined. And Mr. Echeverria, how come, and Ms. Avila, I do remember we had this discussion in committee. I didn't remember that we came to the conclusion it's best not to do it. What were your reasoning, or either or both of you, for not trying to define criteria?
Both of our offices reviewed provisions such as these from various jurisdictions throughout the state and actually from other parts of the country, and found that they had either as broad criteria as this or none. There is a tremendous amount of difficulty in defining behaviors that would be subject
I know,
to
and that's
censure.
the problem.
Generally, the option is made, or the decision is made to go with the option that lets the body ultimately decide whether it fits within those broad
You know, in the
criteria.
last
We could
analysis,
find
I could
nothing
live
to
with
guide
this
us.
anyway. Let me tell you, I'll live my life. We'll all lead our lives, whether we have it or not.
Mr.
But
Wax,
I
thank you.
try to raise my opinion.
Mr. Pacheco.
Mr. President, colleagues, I really think that what it boils down to is what we want to have in place July 1st. I'm comfortable either way. As a charter reform commissioner, I don't feel that there's necessarily a need to have these procedures in place by July 1. I think that the idea of censuring a colleague is something that would only arise when a very severe situation presented itself. I do have to say, and I say this, I'm going to say something publicly which I may regret, but so censure me, right? Exactly.
We do that every day,
I know.
Nick.
But you know, when Mike, our colleague, Councilmember Mike Hernandez, was going through that whole time period when everyone was doing their various things here at the council level, I was sitting at Juvenile Hall dealing with children and basically young individuals who are facing very similar situations in their lives, and I was making decisions to prosecute these individuals and send them to Juvenile Hall and hold them accountable. A censure shouldn't be seen as anything other than just communicating to the public that we disapprove of some conduct. The sanctions of a censure are so minimal in relative perspective. If you look at what we do to juveniles who may have committed similar conduct, or what we do to adults. So a censure may seem like a lot to us in our professional lives, but if you keep it in perspective, it's really not a big deal in terms of what other people may go through for similar conduct. But most importantly, it's just the whole debate during the charter reform was, how are we going to communicate to the public that as a body we disapprove of something that one of our colleagues does? I agree that it's probably very difficult to outline what we disapprove of ahead of time, but I would like to open the door to a discussion on certain things that we can say would not rise or not be eligible for censure. For example, exercising your First Amendment rights, or the basic non-discrimination clauses that we have in a lot of our work about someone's sexual orientation, religious preference, all this other stuff. So there are certain things we may eliminate from the list of possible censure, but we don't necessarily have to come up with a list of what would, but I think that might help us alleviate some of the tension and concern as to someone going off the deep end and trying to censure someone for personal and private conduct that deals with either their sexual orientation or their marital status. And obviously, I would never want anyone censured for exercising the First Amendment rights by exercising civil disobedience with the Justice for Janitors cause, for example. That would never, in my book, ever rise for conduct that should be censured, although there are people out there who would. So we may want to explore that discussion as to what would not be eligible for censure, as opposed to what criteria we need to come up with the censure. So either way, I don't think we need to be in a hurry to do this. We have time to discuss this. So I agree with whoever it was that wanted to send it back to committee.
All right, Mr. Bernstein?
Yes, I think probably this should go back. I drafted an amendment which the city attorney has embellished a little bit. I don't know if you've seen it, but it basically deals with, it adds, as far as conduct, by a violation of oath of office. But I think that Mr. Pacheco has raised some questions of things that should be definitely outlined as far as criteria is concerned. I really object to the highest personal standards. I mean, who is to judge highest personal standards? There's a lot of people around this circle that wouldn't agree with my standards, or Mrs. Goldberg, or Mr. Holden, or Mr. Fures, or any of us, depending on our political views. So basically, one of the things that should be eliminated is that. The main thing is that we keep our oath of office. We already have removal of office on a felony if you're convicted. Perhaps one of the criteria for this ought to be conviction of a misdemeanor, ought to be one criteria. Well, maybe, Nate, if you're going to put some criteria in there, that might be one criteria. But I don't know how you do this other than getting into a morass of just leaving it open so anybody can do anything, you know? I think this should go back, and we ought to take a look at it, and we ought to be very careful of the criteria that we put in to this thing, so that if it ever occurs, that it is something that can be done, can be used appropriately and not destructively as far as the city and the future councils.
Okay, we have a request to send this back to committee. Huh? Yeah, we'll send it back to the ad hoc committee. If there's no objection, that will be the order.
Could I ask a question, Mr. President?
No, Mr. Holden, we've asked enough questions.
As long as you gave me the right answer, that's okay.
Ms. Goldberg has asked that item 33 be received and filed as that matter has been taken care of, so there's no objection. That will be the order. Let's
President.
16 fourth, we're going to take 29. We have some people who want to be heard on it.
Right. On 14, Mr. President,
Huh?
Mr. Deaton.
28 forthwith. Huh?
Mr. Deaton asked that 14 be continued for a day. He'll be voting in Sacramento.
Okay, if there's no objections, that will be the order. Okay, 29 is, we have Richard Gray, Jeb Brighouse, Leonard Lem, Richard Gray, Jeb Brighouse. You can get behind him and take that microphone on the right side. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Richard Gray. I'm a property owner on Sunset Boulevard.
Pull that microphone up a little bit.
Good morning.
Yes.
I'm Richard Gray. I'm a property owner on Sunset Boulevard. I run a business, Range Realty. There is a proposal to take a parking lot behind Sunset Boulevard and turn it into a recreation center, basketball courts, close the alley. This is really a bad idea. These parking lots were created to fulfill a need for the business community, provide parking, provide circulation, to help the business people. An assessment district was formed to do this a little before my time, but my reading of the records is that there's an assessment district made to pay for this. The points I'd like to make is that these parking spaces are used and they are needed. I represent as an agent a property at 1700 Sunset where we're trying to lease a space. We recently had somebody come to look at the property. We informed them that this procedure of closing the parking lot was going on, and after viewing his business and his needs, he decided he'd wait and see before renting this property because he felt he wouldn't have enough parking after this proposal went through. The circulation from Glendale to Sunset is through the parking lot and through the alley because Sunset Boulevard is an overpass at Glendale. So if you want to go to the business district, you go through this parking lot or through the alley. If you close this down, anybody who wants to shop there is going to go up Glendale, and they're going to keep on going all the way to Glendale because convenience is important.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeb Brighouse and then Leonard Lem.
Morning, my name is Jed Brighouse. Good to see you again, John. Reminds me of the good old days when Echo Park was in the 4th District. And at that time, you appointed me to the Citizens Advisory Committee to the Echo Park Silver Lake Community Plan, and I served on that plan. And I can assure you that no one would ever, in their right mind, suggest taking this parking lot away from the business community. It's essential, and it's just completely without substantial justification to do this. The next point I want to make is that the future of this business district is really what we're talking about. And making a count of the cars parked in the lot is absolutely no way at all to predict future need or future demand for parking in the business district. So to claim that there is underutilization is just plain fraudulent. It's the future economic development, the economic growth in those shopping areas along Sunset that we have to keep in mind, and that's vitally important to protect, and I certainly hope the council will protect them. And I think this whole issue needs to be heard in committee, particularly the Public Works Committee, because this entire proposal has been kept absolutely secret from the community as best as possible. And it was only by the most diligent research that we were able to find out about it and to come to this hearing today. We desperately need to have the public's right to know respected, and to start some public hearings on this, and we can start in the Public Works Committee, and I certainly hope that we can do that. Thank you very much.
All right, Leonard Lim, and I'd ask you not to repeat, and we have several people who want to be heard. And Leonard?
Yes, my name's Leonard Liam. I've been a business person in the Echo Park community since 1947. And the original off-street parking that was spearheaded by the local Chamber of Commerce at that time involved 2 parking lots that were built and metered by the city. At a later date, that was in about 1962, 61 or 62. 1966, the city determined that there was not adequate parking for the amount of retail establishments and restaurants along the boulevard there. So the parking lot in question was, there were real estate assessments on the first 2 lots against the property owners. They were built with the assessment money from the property owners. The 3rd lot, which is the one in question, was actually paid for out of the Echo Park parking fund from the meters that were on the other 2 lots. There was no assessment against the real estate. They had, within a matter of about 2 or 3 years, they had accumulated $128,000. The estimate by the city to develop this 3rd lot was 183, 184, and a loan was requested. They were going to use our own parking fund money, and a loan was requested and passed, and the property was developed. Now, this idea of a park-like setting with basketball courts and handball courts and everything, the lifeblood of the Echo Park Business District has been these 3 parking lots. As was said, it gives them access from Glendale Boulevard, which they wouldn't have if they came down Sunset. Not only that, but as far as the utilization is concerned, it is being utilized more than the Department of Transportation had reported. I personally don't have any objection to what has been proposed, but I do have an objection to eliminating 30% of the Echo Park Business District's public parking. There's 80 spaces on this particular lot that they're trying to abandon, and according to the information that we have gotten, which was very late, they are conserving 9 parking places out of 80, and they're shutting off an alley access to the business people in half of that block. Also, the organization that this is being abandoned for, in their use permit of the building they're using on Lemoyne, they are required to have 33 parking places. Now there's not going to be only 9 parking places, which is supposed to serve all the businesses, plus this organization that is supposedly required to have 33 places. I really strongly oppose it as a business person.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Okay. Bonnie Salem, is it, or? And then David Wood would be next. So if you can get closer to the microphone, we'd appreciate it. This has been a long public hearing already.
We'll try and get you out in time for lunch. Good morning. My name's Bonnie Scanlon. I'm the current president of the Echo Park Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce's approachment on this particular proposed project plan from the Department of Public Works is not in opposition to the establishment of a youth recreation facility. We have the concerns and cares that have been expressed as to the impact the reassignment of usage will have on the business community in Echo Park. We've been very fortunate in the past couple of years at the interest shown both through the community involvements, the organizational involvement, the political involvements, that a serious approach is being made towards business district economic revitalization and development. In conjunction with this, there is no logic that will follow that you will eliminate 30% of your available public parking and expect to undergo a revitalization of that particular business district. These parking lots are used also by residents who live on the side streets right there and are of the housing is of the era that they do not have attached garages. They do utilize this lot to park at night when they come home. These lots are also used to facilitate major events being held in the community, which definitely promote Echo Park as a community. We have the issue of the reassignment of the lot because of the negative current and future impact on any type of business district revitalization and economic development. The closing off of the access between Glendale Boulevard into the business district will create a circuitous route that will require an extended travel time or travel distance of a very long block that could be construed as 2 city blocks north to Montana, right on Montana to where there is a elementary school, using residential streets to go south to even get to the business district that is without getting to the parking area.
Thank you.
We ask that you refer this to committee, delay vote, and to hold what are supposed to be in process full hearings, and none of which have we been invited to or enjoined to attend. Thank you.
David Wood, and then Peter Fitzpatrick.
My name is David Wood. I'm the property manager for the International Church of the Foursquare Gospel, which has headquarters property within 100 feet of this proposal, and also 2 congregations of Angelus Temple, a Hispanic and an English-speaking congregation, which would be impacted by the closure of parking lots. These lots are used by the church on Sundays for parking, as well as any event that happens in Echo Park, such as the Lotus Festival and all of the other things that happen. The church has been, in the past, interested in partnering with the city or whomever to build parking structures. We would be, of course, number one, we are in favor of youth programs in the community. We want to stand behind the advancement of any programs that are available for youth or for people with needs. The church is involved in some of those things. We want that to continue. However, we are in favor of increased parking rather than decreased parking, and if there's any way the church can partner with a solution in this that would bring about more parking rather than less and still solve that problem, we're in favor of it.
Thank you. All right, Peter Fitzpatrick, and then we'll...
First of all, I was not notified. I'm a property owner at 1720 Sunset Boulevard. I was not notified about this particular change. I was also not notified about this hearing today until Friday. So I had no chance to bring my attorney or otherwise. But I'd like to just read one statement. We are all sympathetic to the desire of the community to provide more playgrounds for our young people. This desire, however, should not influence the city to destroy a viable commercial district which generates the taxes to pay for the city's operations. Thank you.
Okay, Susan Borden, Echo Park Improvement Association, Marcia Perloff, Echo Park Historical Society, and we have somebody from the Echo Park Glendale Corridor. We're only going to hear, can you be very brief, because we've
Yes,
had
I
far
know.
too long a public hearing already.
Okay. Yes, I think this is obvious that this is very controversial and it should be heard in committee. The point I wanted to make that hadn't been covered was that in Echo Park, every successful business that we currently have had to put in more parking. We have Peerless Hardware, and they had to buy the lot next to their property and put in parking. We have Tex Restaurant, which had to get 2 of its own parking lots. We recently had Barragan's Restaurant, and they had to buy the lot on Sunset Boulevard opposite them in order to put in their own parking. We have the Lotus Festival, which is enormous. This is a dense inner city type of area, and if we're ever going to expand or have an economic revival, we need more rather than less parking, because every economic revival situation I've ever seen says you need more parking. I think of places like 3rd Street in Santa Monica and Pasadena Old Town. They all needed parking to improve, and I would really like to see this properly investigated. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Marcia, you're going to be the last one.
Good morning. The Echo Park Historical Society has regularly voiced interest in revitalizing our business district, and Jackie's office kindly supported sponsorship of our organization to attend the Main Street conference recently. One of the things that we heard time and time again at the California Main Street conference, which was to help grassroots organizations within a community spur economic revitalization of their business districts. The one thing that we heard time and time again, that we were so lucky that we had this one asset, which was those city parking lots. They called it gold. And I remember that, and I thank Jackie for sponsoring our group's involvement in that. Yet I feel that this message of it's a very schizophrenic message that we're getting now, because we don't really understand how we can revitalize our business district by pulling a vital asset to its revitalization. Thank you.
Okay.
My perspective is very different from what has been presented.
Yeah, what is your name?
The name you couldn't pronounce, Issa K. Mexon. with the corridor.
Yeah, okay, please.
In your attachment A to this agenda item 29, it indicates that when the vote took place in Echo Park for the TNI monies, that we had overwhelmingly supported a recreational center. We did not support a recreational center, but rather a community center, which is very different. It has a broader base and scope. It will include uses by the various community organizations, as well as the old, the young, and so on. I think that needs to be pointed out. There is in Echo Park a recreational center. Right now, it's on Bellevue, between Glendale Boulevard and Echo Park Avenue. It sorely needs help. The basement is vacant because it needs refurbishment.
Okay, well,
So please-
that's another issue.
But it's related.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much. We have just a couple others, and we'll make that part of the file, and we'll close the public hearing. Ms. Goldberg.
Yes, thank you. We did have a public hearing at Logan Elementary School. It was attended by a couple of hundred people. There were about 15 or 20 people who opposed the project. The remainder supported it. Let me just say that this is a time-sensitive issue. We must, there's $900,000 of Prop K money at stake. If we are not able to do all of the pieces that need to be done by June 30th, we will, of course, lose that $900,000. What we are talking about is a building on Lemoyne today that we want to enter into a long-term lease with, which is one of the requirements for Prop K. Eventually, we will be back to you about the parking lot. We are exploring the possibility of finding state funding to dig out underneath this surface parking lot and make a subterranean parking lot below it, but I will tell you DOT studies have shown that the parking lot would have, the other three adjacent parking lots are really four parking lots. One that's divided into two pieces, a second one, and which is the third lot, and then this one is the fourth one. That if you take all of the parking lots together on weekends and on weekdays, what you find is, with the exception of when the church unfortunately even keeps other people out from using it, except their church members on Sunday mornings. But with that exception, the lots are never full. In fact, the parking would have to double, and in some cases triple, for there even to be a problem. So I would ask that we enter into this lease today, which does not affect, by the way, the parking at all. That's not even before us. And we will continue to try to meet all needs. But this area is an area that has a very large population of young people that essentially have no place to play and no adult supervision for a large period of the afternoon and all during the summers and off-track times. And what the action you're taking today does not affect any parking. So I would urge you to do this, and but even if it did, I would urge you to do it, because the fact of the matter is that this is a good project, and it makes good use of both TNI money and parking funds. And this group is a very activist group, and I have appreciated both their support and their opposition on projects throughout the years. But they, for sure, do not represent all voices in this community. And in this particular case, they don't represent the majority of the voices either. So I would urge you to vote aye on this and send it forthwith to the mayor. Thank you.
All right. There being no other speakers, the item is before us. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved, and at Ms. Goldberg's request, forthwith. Next item.
Item number 25, Councilmember Walters called special.
Mrs. Walters, could you press the button, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Council members, on item 25, we need to delete certain language. And the language that needs deleting is involves the last two sentences of the third paragraph. the language that needs deleting is in the third paragraph, the last two sentences. Please delete those persons who receive the benefit of equipment repair will only be charged for the parts at cost plus 10%. That entire sentence should be deleted. The last sentence should have one word deleted, and that one word is other. So that then the last sentence will read, all services and assistance will be provided at no cost to the public. This is being sponsored by the Department on Disability. They have a commercial sponsor. They wanted the waiver of fees, and the only condition under which I would waive the fees is if there's absolutely no cost to anybody for attending. So if you would do that, I see Ms. Wilson, I don't know if she has something to add to this? Okay, she says, no, that's fine. So, council members, if you will do this, please. And I will give the clerk a copy. She has the copy.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. President.
All right, anyone else want to be heard? You got the amendments?
Yes, Mr. President.
Any objections to those amendments? So then we have 25 as amended. Prepare the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
This is the time for comments from the public on non-agenda items.
Yeah, is there anybody in the audience that wants to be heard on public comment? We have no cards, seeing none. The public comment period is closed. Next item.
Do you wish to clear the desk before going
Yeah.
into closed session?
Yeah, we're going to go into executive session, so all those people not involved with the executive session, you can start leaving the council chamber as we close out what we have on the desk. Next,
Motions for posting and referral.
there's no objection, unanimous vote. Next item.
Councilmember Galanter requests to be excused to arrive at 11 a.m. Wednesday, May 17th, meets council policy at city business.
Unanimous vote.
Council President Ferraro requests to be excused May 23rd, 24th, and 26th, city business meets council policy.
Unanimous vote. Next item.
That clears the desk.
Okay. All right, Sergeant. Okay, we're back in open session. What do we have before us?
Item number 32 is settlement of sewerage facilities claims of Kaiser Foundation Hospitals in the amount of $298,080.20.
Okay, prepare the roll on that. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next item.
That clears the desk, Mr.
All
President.
right, do we have anything else before the council? Any adjourning motions? The public, I hate to do this to you, but the public comment period is closed. All right, we have an adjourning motion. Would everyone please stand? Yeah, forthwith on that settlement. Mr. Fuhrer?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sure that other councilors will want to join in this. Barbara Fine, who was a very active leader in many communities on many issues, just passed away. And yeah, she was, it was a big surprise. It was not expected, She was very active in hillside planning, in solid waste management. She was a water appeals board member for the county, a building rehabilitation appeals board member, a solid waste citizens advisory group member. But leaving aside the list of things in which Barbara was involved, she was one of those people in the community who always got involved in key community issues, especially land use issues and environmental issues, and did so with a degree of energy and was really prepared to go into depth on the issue, and wanted to engage elected officials and anybody who would listen on the facts and get to the bottom line. And whether one agreed with her or disagreed with her, one had to have enormous respect for the way she dealt with these issues. She is survived by her husband, her son, and others, and I'll give the clerk other pertinent information, but I would recommend all members on this. She was active with all of us.
We'll make all members co-presenters. Mr. Bernston?
Yeah, I need to say something also, because I probably had more occasion to deal with her at a committee level through the years than just about anybody else, really. And I can tell you that she was dedicated. Didn't always agree with her, but she believed in what she was fighting for. She was very active in her community. And certainly, if she was an example of somebody from the community standing up and fighting and speaking up for the things that she believed in. And I want to be a seconder on that motion, please.
Mr. Holden, you came back?
Mr. President, I've been here with you.
Oh,
I'm always with you.
I'm with you, that's what he said.
I'm on your side, Mr. President. Mr. President, it's sad to announce that Mr. Johnny Harris, remaining members of the Ink Spots, he was the lead pianist for the Ink Spots. He passed away in his sleep just the other day, and service will be held in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina. It was brought to my attention by Coy Salas, who follows the careers of many jazz musicians and performers, and we ask that we adjourn in his memory.
All members.
All members on that. Mr. Padilla?
Thank you, Mr. President. Request that the council adjourn in memory of Maria P. Cortez, who was born on May 5th in Michoacán, Mexico, years ago. She and her late husband, Isidro, moved to San Fernando, the city of San Fernando, in 1923, where together they raised 9 children. She was a devoted member of the Santa Rosa Catholic Church and a member there of the Club Guadalupanas. In 1989, she and her daughter, Antonia, moved to Pacoima, where Antonia cared for her bedridden mother with much care and love for the last 11 years. And the 7th Council District Office is sad to learn of her passing.
Mr. Wax?
Yes, I just want to join in memory of Barbara Fine. I worked with her for more than 30 years, even prior to my election and during my election. She was one of the people, along with a core group of people, Shirley Solomon, Barbara Blinderman, Lil Melograno, Betty and Jerry Dectorno, who really began Grace Simon, a citizens movement in our city that has now developed into where we are talking about the kind of community-based governance that we're now talking about. It was funny that not funny, but coincidental perhaps, that Rubel had just passed. These were a core group of people who started when it was really tough, when it was really hard to fight City Hall, when people's voice really, and they fought and they did their homework and they worked and they slaved really, and they've stuck, and in Barbara's case, she stuck with it for the 30 years that I have known her, and has made an immeasurable contribution to this city, way beyond either any individual case or the sum total of the cases. She has helped shape the form of government that hopefully we will eventually have in this city.
Call the roll. All right, the council is adjourned.
Oh, that's too bad.
watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
We now join our scheduled program in progress.